All right, good morning. My name is Jason Ishii, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd like to now call to order the June 7th, 2023 Kakaako Authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And the time is now 10:30.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's Kakaako board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The meeting is all being live streamed on HCD's YouTube page. The HCD communication staff is hosting this meeting. Once the meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clearer audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. This is a public virtual meeting, so to prevent any distractions, if you are not a board member, staff member, or HCD's Attorney General, please turn off your video during the meeting. If you are providing public testimony, your name will be called accordingly. Please turn your video on, clearly state your name and affiliation and proceed with your testimony. When you have finished, please turn off your video. In accordance with section 92-3.7C Hawaii Revised Statutes, if the authority's ICT connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you, Chair.
HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect the following members are present today. Vice Chair Apo.
Present.
Member Higa.
Present.
Member Johnson.
Present.
Member Nasser is excused. Member Hirai.
Present.
Member Evans is excused. Member Sakura.
I'm here.
Chair, we have quorum.
We have quorum, great. For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted into the meeting respectively. First item of the agenda, tab number 1, the regular meeting minutes of May 7th, 2023.
May 3rd.
I'm sorry, May 3rd of 2023. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes? If there's no comments or questions, the minutes are approved as presented. Tab number 2, information and discussion. Sami Kuipo Kumu Kahi and versus Hawaii Community Development Authority, also known as civil number CCV-20-0001171, litigation status update. Ms. Delaney Prescott Tate, Deputy Attorney General, will provide an update in executive session. Is there a motion for the authority to convene in an executive session pursuant to HRS 92-5A4 to consult with the board's attorney on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities? Do I have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Pohl. Is there a second?
Member Higa seconds.
Member Higa seconds, and all favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, the motion passes unanimously. I would request that we are joined in the executive session by Executive Director Craig Nakamoto, Asset Manager Lindsay Doi, Beaverton, Deputy Attorney General Delaney Prescott Tate, and ACDA staff Tomlin Soares and Francine Murray.
And Chair, and Attorney Shannon Wack was able to join as well. So
Okay, also, we would have, please have Shannon Wack also join us in this executive session. We estimate this executive session to last approximately 15 minutes.
We're recording.
Yeah, may we have a motion to exit executive session?
Oh, we need one? Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion to exit the executive session?
Member Higa so moves.
Do I get a second?
second,
Okay, the motion. By member Higa, seconded by member Upholz.
Any opposed?
No, no opposed, thank you. We'll go back into regular session.
No.
We're recording.
Okay, we're back in.
I know that beautiful face.
I don't remember this. Remember.
Okay. Tab number 3, on our agenda, discussion regarding amendment of Kakaako Community Development District 2005 Makai Area Plan and rules to reflect HRS 206E-31.5 and a ban on residential development, subsequent planning efforts, and consistency with the rules in other districts. Mr. Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director, will now present HCDA staff report.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Kakaako Board. This item is being presented for information and discussion only. In other subsequent meetings, we'll take action on the next steps of this, but this matter is for information and discussion only. The staff report is contained in your packet, so I'll just kind of summarize and provide some context and background, and then what we're trying to do with this. So historically in Kakaako Makai, residential development has been both allowed, not allowed, and then lastly allowed in the 2005 plan and rules. As a result of the 2005 plan and rules, there was an effort to develop a high-rise condominium project in Kakaako Makai, the so-called Alexander and Baldwin project. That ran into significant community opposition to residential development in Makai. Then in 2006, the legislature passed 206E-31.5. That was Act 317, which prohibited residential development in Makai. In the years from 2006 to 2011, a community group was formed, the Kakaako Community Planning Advisory Council, also known as CPAC. The group included community stakeholders, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and others. They engaged in numerous public meetings to kind of discuss Makai. They conducted physical area, reviewed local economic influences, market demand, viability of commercial and other land uses. It took a lot of community input and engagement. And what resulted is 14 guiding principles. What also resulted was the Kakaako Makai Conceptual Master Plan, which established really the vision for Kakaako Makai. And the vision was that Kakaako Makai, and I'm reading this partly from the Conceptual Master Plan, Kakaako Makai is the community's gathering place, a safe place that welcomes all people from Keiki to Kupuna with enriching cultural, recreational, and educational public uses. A special place that continues the shoreline lay of green with scenic beauty, connects panoramic vistas, Mauka to Makai, and encourages ecological integrity of land, air, and sea. Kakaako Makai honors, celebrates, and preserves its historic sense of place, Hawaiian cultural values, and our unique island lifestyle for present families and future generations. The conceptual master plan did not include, residential development. The conceptual master plan was adopted by the Kakaako board in 2011. And since that time, the rules have not been, the Mackay rules have not been revised to align the statute. And no residential, the ban on no residential development. So our effort here is to sort of codify 206E 31.5 and the board's policy as recognized or as acknowledged in the conceptual master plan of 2011 and codify those in the rules by going through rulemaking and revision. And this is going to make it consistent, the rules make it consistent with 206E 31.5 and board policy on development in Mackay. The next steps is we're going to have to, the board will propose action by the board to start community engagement and rulemaking at some later point in time. Chair, I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Board, is there any questions for Executive Director Craig Nakamoto?
How long do you estimate, Member Higa here, how long do you estimate this process will take?
Sorry. I think it's, we're going to have to go through some community engagement. I don't anticipate a long community engagement process, but we do have to go through engagement. We may have to, and we're going to have to go to, revise the rules. I would think it's going to be maybe from this point, maybe 6 or 7 months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Member Higa. Any other board members? Do you have any other questions for Executive Director Nakamoto? If not, go to public testimony. First person on the list is Wayne Takamini, Kakaako Mackay CPAC.
Your microphone I can talk to.
The
Oh,
room's recorded.
good morning, board. My name is Wayne Takamini. I've been recognized as the chair for the Kakaako Mackay Community Planning Advisory Council. So I'm gonna just give you a little bit of background about about how we were formed. In 2005, when the HCDA approved these current Kakaako Mackay area rules that allows residential. As soon as that was approved, the community took a big look at this. And I was contacted by several people that are community groups active in Kakaako Mackay with the surfing and body surfing. As you know, Kakaako Mackay is a body surfing spot. And then we started to look at ways to change the, to oppose the condominium development plan. It was done so abruptly. And then I think it was an October meeting in 2005 that they changed the rules quickly. And then the community really did not have any time to voice their opinions before the meeting. After the meeting, we started to gather people around and develop into the Save Our Kakaako Mackay coalition. So in 2006, we approached the legislature, and the legislature enacted what is now HRS 206E 31.5 prohibitions. That includes number one, the residential prohibitions, and number two, the prohibitions of selling state land in Kakaako. And the reason why is as part of the plan that was RFP to build condominiums was the plan to build 200-foot condominiums on what's called the piano lot, which is ever of the marine repair facility and also ever of John Dominus site. So I believe, from my memory, they said they're gonna sell their whole parcel for $20 million. And then the developers would get that land and they would develop it. And that's my opinion about condominium development is the developers gotta get something. So what they want usually is they want the land. So if they're gonna put all their money into building these high buildings, they want something in exchange, and then the land is usually what they want. Okay, so anyway, so we oppose that. In 2006, they also did HCR, concrete resolution to create a working group of the stakeholders that were involved at that time to work with HCDA to make this master plan. And in 2011, I have my copy of this. This is the Kakaako conceptual master plan. And as Executive Director Nakamoto mentioned, the vision and guiding principles. I was the chair at the time that we completed those visions and guiding principle. And we presented it to the board who, before the master plan was approved, the board approved the guiding principles and also the vision. So going forward, we went into the master planning process. And in 2010, we came up with the final version of the master plan, and it was presented to the HCDA board in 2011, and subsequently it was approved at that time. We worked with consultants hired by the legislature of about, this is 750,000 to do this master plan.
Excuse me, Mr. Takumi, can I ask you to just summarize at this point?
Okay, so this master plan was a long-term thing. It was created over a span of from 2006 to 2011. That's 5 years. Okay, so it's pretty substantial. We worked diligently with HCD provided us with consultants, NVE Pacific and Townscapes, Peter Alford Company are some of the consultants that are named in this master plan. 36 organizations, including OHA, and some of the people were actually on our steering committee. So these people were like, one of them was a former chair for the Land Use Commission. So we have some pretty prominent people that are working on this master plan. Subsequently, it was approved. This is now 17 years later, 2006 to 2023. We think it's time that we get this moved forward and codified, put into the new area of Makai rules, which is again 17 years old. And then we can move forward as the process is going to evolve into another step. We'll have to see, but we want to make sure that these reflect what was done over the years.
Thank you, Mr. Takumi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on our list in order is Ross Stevenson.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I would just want to say that I do, well, my name is Ross Stevenson. I grew up on Oahu and I hold a PhD in urban and regional planning. My emphasis has always been documenting the development of the city of Honolulu. I am speaking in support of retaining the ban against residential development in Kakaako, Makai. There are numerous reasons for prohibiting residential development in Kakaako. I'm sure that people have brought up the tsunami inundation zone issue in the past. I want to emphasize, though, that on this site 100 years ago, it was an unregulated urban garbage dump. Residential trash, industrial waste, and discarded building materials, among other things, are shown in period photographs burning for days and leaving the area not only with a cloud that entered the city, but also it was basically pilau in its aroma, we'll put it that way. The dump was expanded as a landfill and is documented as retaining toxins that, if disturbed, would threaten our groundwater supplies. And one thing I also want to emphasize is that since the early 1900s, I mean, over 100 years, the public has been continually desiring the retention of coastal open space. There's a long list of records in the Bureau of Conveyances and the government state archives of government proclamations being made to support construction of parks, even if little money was ever provided. Instead, that government land became devoted to public institutional use. There was actually an opportunity school there at one time. It was a vocational educational school for the mentally disabled. There were 2 different trash incinerators on opposite sides and vehicle base yards. So the public remains determined, as you've seen from the gentleman speaking ahead of me, that this land not be developed. The Kakaako land transfer between the state and OHA, in my opinion, was a bad deal for both parties. Looking in the larger context, the state and OHA should swap properties somewhere else so that OHA can meet its purpose to provide housing for Native Hawaiians. The toxins in the soil at Kakaako not be disturbed, and the state provide precious central open space for the city residents. Thank you very much for your time.
Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. All right. Next on our list, we have Kakaako. Right, Pat? Kakaako?
Am I the last one to testify? It is?
That's all we have on our list at this time.
Okay.
Oh, did you?
No, I think I may have signed the sign-in list. Is there a list for speaking?
Yes.
Separate list. I didn't sign that, I'm sorry. Can I maybe go after him and I'll sign it? I'll let the gentleman go first. Sure. Go first. You sure? Yeah, I'm cool. Okay. I signed the sign-in list. I thought that was.
Sorry, if you can state your name.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Of course. My name is Kelly Kakaako. I'm here in my personal capacity, but more so as an OHA beneficiary. Since 2012, I actually was in the race to become a trustee. So I have a clear position on where you actually support the measure for you guys not to have residential thing on this matter. But I'm actually wanted to use this time not only to support and engage in a conversation on the rights. As when I was a political candidate, it seemed that I was given a little bit more access as to what was going on with that property. Sad to say that the OHA leadership, even at that time, starts today, I can't get the exact answers that I wanted because I, as a candidate, had my own perception of what I could do with the property and present to the public. Every time I would come up with an answer or idea, it was sort of like rejected, waved off, or I was told to go talk to your representative and so forth. And then when I got closer, it was like, oh, it's ACDA, they're the problem. Yeah, they're the problem, and they're different entities. Not like you can just go to the ledge and get your representative to overchange and get what you want to doing. So my question to you guys is exactly what jurisdiction and rights do you guys have to what parcels of the land, especially the ones that OHA retain, and exclusively to the water rights in particular? Because you saw the Fisherman's Wharf is, you know, how it has that little long extension where boats can be moored in particular. That was always been my curiosity and fascination about utilizing that property. And I have some friends at Howard Hughes, that's why, and they repaired most of Kewalo Basin for their tenants and their boats and whatnot. So when I came across that, I got stonewalled. I got no answer. I still to today, I do not know who has jurisdiction except for the guy riding the boat back and forth, parking the harbors, because he has to maneuver things. So my question is to you, do you folks have that jurisdiction over the waterline rights and the submerged lands? I mean, you know, do you guys, what is exactly ACDA, or do you not have it? That's what I'm mostly here to try and figure out.
Yeah, maybe what we can do, Mr. Kakaako, is, so I'm the executive director. Maybe what I can do is maybe meet you offline and we can talk about that and we'll give you the information that you need.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to.
I understand it's different subject matter too, but at least for what I count, I would,
I'm happy to.
yeah, I'll put my vote down that I'm against the residential thing. I do like what the former speaker said, or at least if we could entertain a land swap deal for another purpose and whatnot. And time is of essence. I know you guys know what's going on. I'm a little bit disappointed. The legislature had a good, maybe not the biggest offer, but something offered to OHA to compensate some of the reasons that was down there. But seem to be at a stalemate. And again, that means just nobody's talking, even to a beneficiary, so, but that's it. Yeah, I look forward to them talking to you. There's like.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Thank you, question.
I'll be in touch with you. You want to testify online?
Oh, kind of cool.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kaneko Crab. I'm a body surfer, Point Panic. My father was a body surfer in the late 60s in the Kakaako area. Shortly after that whole Kewalo Basin was built, I ran the body surfing event at Kakaako Makai for 9 years, 2009 to 2017, unassisted, as you get permits from Lindsay over there, and worked with a lot of people, it was a selfless service activity I did just to bring people together, and I did so to the best of my ability for 9 straight years. Unfortunately, I can't do that anymore because, I don't get any support for doing this from anybody, but I've been involved with this Kakaako Mai CPAC since I came back to Oahu in 2008 to earn my master's degree at HPU. I stand here before you today to, humbly ask you guys to not allow residential in Makai. The reason why is, HCDA did subcontracted a lot of contractors to do a lot of research before, after the 2006 thing with, Alexander Botman, specifically the environmental hazards that are in the entire peninsula, whatever it is, 80 acres or so. There's 33 contaminants of concern, the top soil, the top level soil, 3 feet, below 3 feet, and then even in the groundwater, 33 contaminants of concern. You guys are the ones that subcontracted the 2 companies that did the research, published in 2009, prepared for by HCDA, consulting group, environmental services, they did all the testing, Another one was Chip Fletcher, Dr. Chip Fletcher, who, forecasts, it's going to be inundated someday. We already know rising sea level is happening faster than the scientists, global warming, melting of sea caps. The reason why I'm against residential Makai is because I don't want to dump problems that we might create today onto my children's children. That's what it comes down to, The biggest dump thank you, Mr. Stevenson, Dr. Stevenson, for bringing that up. The biggest dump that existed in Honolulu was where that cruise ship pier is on the Eva side. It was forever burning, and they decided to expand it. They created a seawall and pushed it out, and more on Diamond Head side. And they just kept dumping until the state shut down the city and county to say enough dumping already, because the mounds were like, almost 3 stories high. So last thing you want to do is penetrate that, we cannot penetrate that. Leave it as is. We have to worry about what's going to happen. The sea level rises. Is any of that going to leach into the ocean and the surrounding waters where I'm going to body surf? My son's going to body surf with his children someday. That's my concern. I want you guys to just leave it as is. I want Kakaako Makai to become an expanded Kakaako Waterfront Park. We talked about this in the master plan a long time ago, to go from Honolulu Harbor all the way to Point Panic, and Point Panic all the way to Fisherman's Wharf, and Fisherman's Wharf all the way to Kewalos. Before I end, I need to educate you guys on what existed before Kakaako Makai was built. Between Honolulu and Waikiki, on the Eva end, was Ka'au Kukui. Ka'au Kukui to Kukulo'eo. Kukulo'eo to Kewalo. Kewalo to Kalia. Kalia to Waikiki. It was a Kahawai, it was a Kahakai, it was a white sandy beach. And out from the beach was coral reef that was very flat. And that reef provided so much seafood for my ancestors. If you've ever been to Dailana Molokai, you look at Kaunakakai, you go to the wharf goes straight out. They dredged it so the barge could come in. From Kaunakakai all the way to Mana'e, the reef goes out 1/4 mile or longer from the white sandy beach. If you can go to Molokai and witness what it used to look, what it still looks like over there, used to look like right here from Honolulu to Diamond Head. Mahalo.
Thank
Thank you. Is there any other public testimony? There's a total of 30 written testimonies that were submitted and emailed to you as board members, so you should be receiving if you haven't seen that already. Members, are there any questions or comments in this area?
Member Higo with a comment. I just want to thank all of the people who came out to testify. This area is probably of all the sub-districts for HCDA the most important to me. My uncle Claude taught me to body surf at Point Panic. I learned to surf at Straight Outs. You know, the surf spots are appropriately named, right? So you have Point Panic, Flies, which refers to the flies, and then Incinerators, which refers to the incinerators. So I think it's really important that we take stock of this land, what can safely be built there, and ensure that we're not, you know, putting these contaminants into the ocean. I want to thank, you know, the people who've been campaigning on this literally for decades. I know that my uncle Claude was one of those people in the early days. And so it's good to see that push and awareness of this history continues today. So I want to thank the people who came to testify.
Thank you, Member Higo. It is something that I know ECDA board does take very seriously. We are concerned that we want to make sure that with all the hard work that went in for this Kakaako final report is really taken into consideration, and actually, and that's the reason why we felt it was important to bring this at this time. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Again, we're going to be allowing this is a long process. We want to allow everyone to be able to give their opinions and public testimony, and we want to make sure that we do our due diligence accordingly. So thank you again. Okay. Next thing on the agenda, so decision-making item, consider authorizing the executive director to waive HCDA's first option to purchase Rycroft Terrace Unit 513 and defer the payment of shared equity due to the unit owner's death pursuant to Hawaii Administrative Rules Section 15-22-188. Ms. Lindsay Doy, Leverton, Asset Manager, and I'll present HCDA staff report.
Good morning, members. This report is located under tab 4 of your packet. This is one of those one-off reserve housing requests that we're bringing to you for action because we are asking for a waiver of the first option to buyback. Normally, we would exercise that right to buyback, but this is kind of a unique case in that the owner passed away without a will. So now that unit went into probate. His beneficiaries obviously, would take that unit, which would involve a transfer in title, which would normally trigger the payment of shared equity or the buyback, first option to buyback. So because of that circumstance, we are asking to waive that option and to defer the payment of shared equity until a true sale occurs. I understand that the beneficiaries do intend to sell the unit. It will take some amount of renovations. So they would do that and then list the unit, and then they would pay us the shared equity due at that time. So it's not a loss of the shared equity. It would just simply be a deferral. I'm not sure if the family members are present for any questions, but they did request that we bring this to your attention for possible action.
Yeah, so my understanding, Lindsay, was that due to the fact that it's going to be going to probate, and that is a transfer of title to probate, that the way the rules are written, that we would have, then at this time, we would get a share of the shared equity if we didn't give a exception. Am I correct?
So we would have the option to buy it back,
Right.
to prevent the transfer, to someone else. We could buy it back. We did look at the appraised value. We did look into buying it back. We determined it wasn't financially feasible to buy back this particular unit, which is a very small studio unit with no parking. So if in the case where we waive the unit, we could, we could demand the payment of the shared equity. But since it's not technically a sale to a third party, it would
Right.
more be like a family member inheriting it. Yeah, we would like to request the deferral just for the sake of the beneficiaries, knowing that they do intend to sell and pay the shared equity in the near future.
Okay, understood. Yes.
Chair, we have one person. Who wants to,
Okay, so we do have a public testimony.
Aaron.
Aaron?
Oh, okay, yes, she's one of the family members. She's actually handling
Okay,
this.
all right. So we have a public testimony. Aaron, I guess that's the name I see here.
And last name as well for the record.
Sorry, actually, it's Aaron Nakaoka, Republican. I just wanted to answer any questions if you guys had any as the person representative.
Is there any questions, board members, for Aaron Nakaoka representing?
It's Kevin Sakota. I have a question actually for Lindsay. Are we putting any time limit on this?
Currently, no, there's no time limit. Once we waive and defer the payment, we generally don't put a deadline for payment. We just simply defer it until that first true transfer or sale would happen. And that's when they would get the release from us to actually sell the unit.
Is it wise for us to put a time limit on it? I mean, I don't want this thing hanging around for 5 years, right?
We could, there have been instances in the past where we have deferred the payment of shared equity and waived the first option to buy back without a time limit. We've never placed a time limit on it before, but we certainly could if that's the board's direction that they'd like to go.
Member Sakota, can I add something?
Sure.
I think the requirement and the covenant to pay shared equity is always going to remain on the property, on the title, so that requirement will never go away. Second, we're not going to waive it, we're just deferring it. And I think third, we could put a time limit on it or a deadline, but I think my sense is that the family in this instance is motivated to, do the necessary repairs to the unit and then sell the unit to realize any, gains from the sale.
And I'm not sure if Aaron would like to speak more to that.
Yeah, that's the plan. The unit does require a lot of renovation. We already have the contractors in place. We're just waiting for this meeting to get approval. So once we get approval, we'll sign with the contractors. 2 weeks, it'll be renovated. It's going to be listed by, we already have a realtor in place. And then once the sale goes through, the 33,000 would be calculated in and paid out. The only other thing would be if it doesn't sell and we pay, we would then transfer it transfer it into a different entity, which I'm assuming would be rentable at that point, because I think it's October next year is the 10 years, but I don't know anywhere in Honolulu you're going to live for under 200,000, or 210 is going to be the asking price. So it should sell.
Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a question for Lindsay. If somebody dies, an owner dies intestate, what happened? And let's say the family decides to keep it. What happens then?
So the 2005 rules, which govern the majority of units, including Rycroft Terrace, this unit, there are avenues, so that could happen. And so what I did originally offer to Aaron and their family was, if a family member wanted to take title to the unit, they could without triggering any buyback or shared equity, as long as that family member qualified, which means I would have to review their income, their assets. I don't believe maybe there was a family member that qualified or that they wanted to pursue that path. So that's why we're here today, but they could.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question. That really isn't. That wouldn't be a policy issue. or anything.
Yeah, if people could pursue that, it's just a little more difficult, I think.
So this is just.
Yeah, until they sell, like he mentioned, very soon.
Okay.
Any other questions, board members? If not, do I have a motion for the board to authorize the executive director to waive the ACDA's first option to purchase the Rycroft Terrace Unit 513 and defer the payment of shared equity due to the unit owner's death pursuant to Hawaii Administrative Rule Section 15-22-188.
Member Higa, so motion.
Member Higa motion, did I get a second?
Second. Miranda Johnson, second.
Second, Miranda, Member Johnson. Is there any further discussion on this? If not, I'll ask Lindsay to take the roll call.
Okay. On that motion, Member Higa.
Aye.
Member Miranda Johnson,
Aye.
Member Uphold,
Aye.
Member Harai,
Aye.
Member Sakota,
Yes.
and Chair Ishii.
Yes.
The motion passes with 6 in favor. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Evans.
We can
Member-
note that Member Evans joined the meeting at 11:11 a.m.
Let the record show Member Evans joining.
And votes aye on this motion.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Member Evans. The motion passes with 7 in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, the Executive Director report, monthly report and other status.
Thank you, Chair. So the Executive Director report is in your packets as in tab 5. But really, I wanted to point out 3 things, actually. One is we executed a contract with Avalon Commercial to provide property management services for Block B. Those are the properties we acquired to do affordable housing. That's on Queen Street, bounded by Kauai Hau. So we have a full-time contracted property manager to manage the properties. We're ready to develop affordable housing there. The second and third items I wanted to report on is the crosswalk project is proceeding. It is being worked on, and I want to acknowledge Jermaine Salim Hagiara. She's our project engineer who's really taking the lead on both the crosswalk, permanent crosswalk improvements and the Kolowalu Park improvements. And doing a really great job at moving those along. The crosswalk is in permitting right now. We've gotten, we're struggling with one necessary approvals for it, but we got it. We're expecting that construction will begin in summer. And then barring any kind of supply chain issues, we should see the completion of the permanent crosswalk maybe end of this year. As you remember, the authority paid for the temporary crosswalk improvements to address a safety concern, raised by residents there. The permanent crosswalk will include a raised island, painted crosswalk, and flashing beacon for pedestrian safety. So again, I want to thank Jermaine for work on that. The second project that I want to highlight is the Kolowalu off-leash dog park improvements. A summary is provided as an attachment to your, to the executive director report. Now, this is both a functional dog park, but it's also being designed as a cultural resource for the community. We've been working with our consultant, PBR Hawaii, and their cultural consultant, Ramsey Tom, to create placemaking, culturally appropriate placemaking, you know, in the dog park as part of the design, which includes the use of locally sourced rock for the entrance, locally sourced rock as sort of playground equipment, as it were, for dogs. And then you notice the design of the gates, the sluice gates, and also the fencing around it. So it's really part of our effort, I think, working with Peter and the Native Hawaiian Hui to create in our projects sort of Native Hawaiian placemaking in a project like this. So it's more than just a dog park. It's really a place to go. It will be. There'll be signs, there'll be a QR code that shows the history of it. And it's all based on research that was done by Ramsey and the PBR Hawaii group, and going back to the origins of this area in Kolowalu. For this one, we're hoping to get construction started in summer of this year and then completed in December of this year. There's still some regulatory, I think, hurdles that we need to step over, but we're hoping to get this done. It's much needed. And you see the renderings up on the screen, the rocks, and then there'll be playground equipment, lighting, water features. Any question? Open for question.
Members, are there any questions for Executive Director Nakamoto on his report?
Yeah, it's Kevin Sakota for Craig.
Hi.
Hi, Craig. You know, all this, it looks great, right? I mean, the one thing that I worry about kind of going forward is just upkeep and expenses for the park, security, cleanup, maintenance, landscaping, etc. Where are we going to get the funding for that? Is that coming annually from the legislature?
No, it's gonna, so the cost of ongoing maintenance is always a concern. I think we've tried to design it where so that our current landscaping team can continue to do the landscaping, because even without the dog park, we're gonna have to do landscaping, at Kolowalu Park, Mauka anyway. The additional cost will be, maintaining the fencing, and repairing lighting and so forth. But I think it's a cost that we're willing to bear for the benefit of the community and the residents who have dogs. There is no dog park on this side of Ward Avenue. The closest off-leash dog park is at Mother Waldron. And then I note that Alamana Regional Park technically doesn't allow dogs in that park. So there really is no other, off-leash dog park. But I take to heart, Member Sakota, your comments about maintenance.
Is this going to be 24 hours, you think?
No, 24 hours, no. It'll be open during regular park hours.
Okay. All right, thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Member Sakota.
Members, any other questions for Executive Director Nakamoto? If not, thank you very much for those who have joined us on Zoom or in person or via YouTube. This concludes our business for today, and the meeting is adjourned at 11:31. We're gonna go into our general business regular meeting.